This is Jill Sudoff, and this is my reflection on the web-based tools. So what you're looking at right now is the blend space that I created for this project. So first, when I first started creating this, my initial thought was, okay, a lot of the readings look at using technology in a different way. Some of them I'd never heard of before. In fact, blend space was a new one for me. And Wordle, I thought that one was really interesting. So I wanted to incorporate some of those technology applications into my project. As far as Bloom's levels of taxonomy, what I did was like this first website is really introducing students, if you can read that, to the effects of Flint's lead water, the poisoning that's going on in Flint, Michigan. And I know some of the students have seen this maybe on the news, but they probably haven't really paid too much attention to it. So I really want them to use this situation, this real life situation, to really look at why lead is so bad and maybe how we can, fight this. And this would be for chemistry students. So they're going to watch this first video. And then there's questions that go along with it, and basically I want them to just say, this was what really caught my attention in this video, and this is what's happening in Flint. And I think the video really does a nice job of introducing that idea. So this kind of sets up some of Bloom's basic ideas, just kind of gaining some of the knowledge that's necessary to make some larger connections later on here. So then my next website, number 2 right here, is just a link to the City of Flint's website. And what's interesting about this website is that if you open it up, they have this feed that's right on the front, and I can kind of scroll down here, and it has all these different things that are currently happening. It has the date right there. So I want the kids to kind of scroll through here and look at this and say, wow, a lot of these things really are part of this disaster that happened in Flint. So then their piece for this, what I want them to do, which is a little bit higher level on Bloom's maybe, is to pick one of these that links to the lead poisoning disaster and then explain how it relates to it. Okay, so at this point they can say, okay, wow, this disaster is really bad, but I don't really know that much about lead poisoning, so that's why I put number 3 in here, which is a link to the Mayo Clinic, and it just explains lead poisoning. And I'm not going to go to the site here, but if you look at the questions, they're kind of some of them are on the lower level of Bloom's, just finding some basic information about what's going on there. So then the fourth level here is a Google document that I've shared with them. And this is actually something that I took from one of my own master's classes that talks about lead, and once again kind of reinforces some of the ideas. But this one really brings about something even more useful, and that's the connection between lead and calcium. So I really want them to read through this and make that connection, and then following that connection, answer some of these questions. So here they're going to link, if you read question number 13 there, the video to the calcium. So this is definitely a higher level of Bloom's, where they're having to make a connection between previous knowledge and knowledge that is just being presented to them. Number 5 then is a website which is just a periodic table, and it's interactive, so you can click on different things. So like I could click on lead, I could click on calcium, and they need to do that because I'm asking them not only to draw and show these, but also to consider how they're connected. Why are lead and calcium linked in this particular instance, in this situation? So they're trying to really draw a connection between these two different elements. And then finally, they've been answering all these questions throughout, so I thought this would be an interesting way for them to show their knowledge, would be to put what they've typed in the Google Doc, all of their answers, onto a Wordle and have it pop up and see what it looks like and what words are really emphasized, which I think the kids will really like, and I think that once they look at it, they'll be probably interested in to see how they look different or similar from each other's levels. And it also feeds right into how it's different from the traditional, in that they can really work at their own pace. Obviously they'll probably talk to each other while they're doing this, but it allows them to also go back and look at some of the websites that they had previously looked at, and just kind of, put it all together at their own pace. And we definitely couldn't do that if it was, like just a traditional me standing in front of the classroom explaining this to them. As far as the design and development process, I kind of went through this already, but like I said, my main goal, chemistry-wise, is I wanted them to see how some of the elements, because we'll have covered periodicity and like trends and properties of the periodic table, how some of these elements are connected, especially on a biological level, which I think will be really interesting for them. And then I wanted to kind of, start with something that was very real life that's currently happening, and then draw them through how the chemistry really builds into that. And then once again, use the Wordle to kind of use a technology to display the information that they've learned. Okay, so if my students were going to use this, I think once they're introduced to Wordle, they'll probably use this again. I think it's a great tool. It's very interesting. It's eye-catching. And as far as the blend space goes, something I thought you could maybe do is once the students have worked through this once, they could actually go through and create their own blend space that deals with the same topic, the crisis that's happening in Flint, Michigan, and they could find websites and kind of come up with some questions that they might want to do, and they could take it in all different kinds of angles, like maybe if they want to look at the government and what the government's doing, or who, the ramifications of this disaster that's kind of been looked over for several years, and who should get in trouble for that, what should happen, what kind of regulations should maybe take place after this has happened in Flint. So that's my ideas on what students should use for these tools. Like I said, this was my web-based tools project on Flint, Michigan crisis, and this would be for chemistry students. Thank you.